I'm 28 years old, and these are the biggest things I'd change if I could start my fitness journey over again. Literally, these six simple things could save you so much time that I, unfortunately, and somewhat stupidly, wasted. Some of them you've probably heard before, but a couple of these took me way longer to figure out than they should have, and one of them cost me actual years of progress that I'm just not getting back. So if you're early into your training, or you've been at it for a while and just want to be sure you've got on the right track, this is for you. If you're after some six pack in 6 weeks shortcut, I'll save you the time. This is not that video. So I've been training for over 10 years now, and I've coached a variety of people to help them along their fitness journey. Everything on this list, I didn't actually learn from a textbook. I've actually lived it and done it, and continue to live it now. So if that sounds useful to you, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing is it's actually going to be worth the effort required, so much more than you think. And it can be quite a lot of effort. It depends what you're trying to do, but it's going to be worth it so much more than you think in the end. And the reason for that is not just health. That's kind of like the easy one. Everyone knows that you're going to be healthier if you're doing more cardio and more resistance training and whatnot. But actually how people treat you changes. Your thinking changes. You earn a bit of pride in yourself, and even things like simple daily tasks like going up and down stairs suddenly become easier than they were. And you didn't even find them as hard necessarily before, but you just didn't realize it could be as easy as that. That sounds like you struggle with daily tasks. Even if you don't struggle with them, you can still find it somehow easier that you just didn't expect. But people just treat you different as well. You get more respect from people. People look at you and they know, oh, that person's actually been practicing discipline. They've gone out and made an effort with their own physique, and they're doing something that actually no one asked them to do and that ultimately isn't required. So when you're seen to be doing something that isn't required of you, but you're doing it anyway, you're choosing to challenge yourself, and that's an attractive trait in anybody. There's also like the debate about what's attractive. So I'm going to use what's attractive to women in this context because I'm a guy and it's what I relate and understand to, but I know this goes both ways. So there's always this attraction debate that goes around. What's the most attractive you can look? Is it the dad bod? Is it muscular but not that lean? Is it super shredded? What is the gold standard? And oftentimes what everyone comes up with is completely different answers depending on the person. But one thing that's universally attractive is actually confidence. Now, confidence can really only come, in my opinion, when you know you've got your ducks in a row and you've actually done the work required. So you feel confident within yourself. Now, wherever that may be for you, if you're confident after, say you've got a higher body fat, but you're quite muscular, you're doing well, you're lifting the weights, you don't need to be shredded. If that's given you the most confidence that you've ever had, this is the most attractive physique for you. It's wherever that confidence lands. It's got nothing to do with the physique itself. Like, yes, there is an element. If you're overweight by a lot, yes, there is the case that you would probably benefit a fair bit from losing weight, even if you are confident. But for the most part, the one thing that's universally attractive to anyone is confidence, and it comes from being in shape and from doing the work and doing the reps and knowing in yourself that you're actually trying. The last thing I would say on that is that everything actually takes longer than you think. Like, if you're going to cut weight, just know that it's probably going to take a lot longer than you think, and you need to add weight to it. If you're thinking you're going to cut 10 pounds, just know you're probably going to need to cut about 15 or 20. If you're going to try and gain muscle, know that you're not going to see incredible strength gains all the time, especially if you're more experienced. This can just take longer than you think. Everything does. So allow more time than you think. If you think you need 8 weeks, give yourself 12. Give yourself 15. Give yourself 20 weeks even. Give yourself more time for doing everything. Like, for example, right now, it's coming up to the middle of July. If you want to be in shape for next summer, start now. Give yourself as much of a runway as you can. Focus on the fundamentals rather than the trends you're seeing across social media. People are always up to nonsense now just to farm engagement on social media. Like, literally, they're taking exercises that are perfectly reasonable and perfectly fine and then turning them into Frankenstein's monster versions of what that was. And oftentimes the version they're turning it into is just not effective in any way. And yet it gets engagement, it gets clicks, and it gets likes because it's new and it's not popular. It's novel. It's like, well, just because it's novel and new doesn't mean it's actually good. In many cases, it's quite simply not good. So what I would say is focus on things that have been around a long time and things that simply work. And oftentimes they're basic and simple. That's one thing that you need to know as well. The more complex it is, the chances are it's not better. Just because it's more complex doesn't make it better. What you're really going to want to focus on is progressive overload over time. This just means more reps, more weight, more sets, more volume over time. Now, obviously sets and reps are limited because you can't just keep doing more sets and reps. Eventually you'll end up at the gym for hours and hours and hours at a time trying to do more sets and reps. But one thing you can change easily is weight. And so that's just lift more weight over time. Now, I will say that doesn't mean to go in and be a powerlifter, because that isn't necessarily what you're looking to do. What I would say is, if you're new, start with form. Perfect your form across your exercises. Get good at actually learning how to move the weight and how to lift it. Then over time, start adding weight. Don't just throw yourself in trying to lift more, and then your form's shit. You end up actually going backwards over time doing that. It doesn't mean you won't make strength gains. It's just your chances of injury go up. You're not using the exercises as effectively as possible. So focus on form first. Now, this was something that I did. The only problem I had was that I completely ignored weight. So I was using weight, obviously, and I would try and get it a little bit heavier, but I wasn't that fussed. I didn't really care. It was all about having pristine form for me. Now, the benefit to that is I've never actually been injured in over 10 years of lifting. I've had a dodgy left shoulder, but that didn't come from the gym. I've never been injured, and I think a large amount of that, and the reason why, is because I was so diligent about form. Now, there's no accolades in having pristine form if you're not necessarily making gains, and there was a long period in my time at the gym where I could have been so much further ahead than I am had I just focused a little bit more on getting stronger as well as having pristine clean form. So make sure that you're not neglecting the weight like I did as well. So point number 3, train like you mean it. Now, what I mean by this is, oftentimes people can catch themselves if they're truly honest, and you'll see this in other people if you watch folk in the gym. People turn up and they just go through the motions, they do the thing and they tick the boxes, but they do all of this for years and they don't necessarily make any significant strength gains, muscle gains, fat loss gains. They really don't achieve very much, but yet they're still there doing the things and ticking the boxes. Often this is actually just a matter of not training intensely enough. And I've seen it so many times where people are coming into the gym and they might have been victim to point 2 where they're not actually doing things that work. But let's say they are. Let's say they're doing the right things. It's just not necessarily having the effect that they wanted. Very often this is because they're just simply not training as intensely. The challenge that comes from training is what makes you grow. If you're not challenging yourself, you're not going to grow in whatever that domain is. Even outside of training, you need to challenge yourself. And your body only responds to when it's under stress. When you're doing the reps at the gym and you're doing the exercises, if you're not stressing the system out and you're not really taxing the muscles, it's simply not going to grow. Like, you're going through the motions, yeah, sure, but it's not about the time and how long you spend in the gym. It's about how you spend your time in the gym. So you need to remember that and make sure that you're pushing really hard and you're training with intent when you're actually training. That's it. And allow yourself to rest. You don't need to be in there for an hour and a half doing set upon set upon set. Go in there and do 2 or 3 sets and absolutely blast them. Make them really, really, really hard and tax the system. Tax yourself on them. Yeah, they're going to be hard, but just know that you're not doing as many. It's so much easier on your mind mentally as well, because you know you're not having to go through the grind of every single set after set after set. It's not required in the first place if you train hard enough. And it's so much easier, as I say. It's less time, which involves more consistency, because you know that you don't need to be there all day. So you can go in, get everything done in 35 minutes to 45, maybe 50 minutes, and you're back out the door and you don't need to think about it anymore. Do this and things will change for you. Point number 4, track everything. So when I was younger, this was a huge missed opportunity for me because I didn't actually track my workouts at all. I would track my calories when I was cutting, and so that was helpful because it meant I knew what I was eating, and therefore I could manipulate it easier and actually make good progress with that. But I didn't track my workouts, and I really regret this because it meant that I neglected what I did in weeks prior. Now, nowadays, I make sure to track everything I do in the gym. And particularly, so I use an app called Heavy, H-E-V-Y. It's on the App Store. Now, this is particularly helpful because it allows me to see immediately what I did last week and if I could try and beat it this week. So it's constantly giving you things to beat. And this helps so much because when you don't have that, it's sometimes quite hard to know where your goal should be because your body's going to fluctuate on a week-by-week basis anyway. Some weeks you're just going to be stronger than others. Some weeks things are going to feel easier. Some weeks things are going to feel harder. It's just the way it is. But when you know what you done last time, it gives you something to actually target and try and beat. Now, this is the whole point of what I was saying with the last point. You want to try and challenge yourself. And so by tracking everything, particularly your workouts, it's going to make that so much easier. It also allows you to see the total volume in that workout, which, as you might remember, we want to see more volume over time. We want to see progressive overload, and it's a nice, simple and easy way to do that. So definitely track everything. Don't get obsessive with it, just aim to beat last time. aim to see the numbers going up over time, whether that's weight or, like for example, you might take an exercise that you'd already got a good weight on, but this week, you're going to aim for 5 reps or 6 reps, whereas you've only been able to do 5 before. This week, you managed to get 7 done. This is an improvement. Aim for any little improvement across the board and keep doing this week in and week out. This is the way that you're going to get the maximum amount of results out of the gym. Point number 4 is to weigh yourself daily. Now, this is going to change for depending on what your goals are. I would say if you're trying to gain weight, this is probably not as important, but I would still do it anyway, to be honest, because it takes a few seconds out of your life and it's pretty easy to do, let's be honest. Then I would say, similar to the last point, you want to track it. So track your weight daily. Now, there's an ongoing debate whether you should weigh daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. I would say to do whatever works best for you, but I would recommend daily. And the reason for this is, not only does it work best for me, but the reason it works best for me is it allows you to see immediately where you're at. Now, on a daily basis, this is going to fluctuate all over the place, but that's okay because you weigh daily and you take the 7-day or the 10-day average, then you can compare, let's call it weekly, you can compare this week to next week and the week after. Now, if you look over the course of 3 weeks of weighing daily, you can see a clear trend. You might be trending up, down, or you might just be flatlining, but you can have a reliable trend now that you can work with. If you weigh yourself once, call it every 2 weeks, you might just so happen to weigh yourself on a heavy day on both times that you weigh yourself across those 2 weeks. And then the next thing you know, you go, oh, I'm not losing any weight. When in reality you just so happen to weigh yourself on a heavy day on both of those 2 weeks. And that might be enough to make you think, oh, this isn't working, I'm just going to stop what I'm doing. Even though it is working, you're just not seeing it because you're not weighing yourself daily. So I would always say weigh yourself daily. I know it's debated. I've had a lot of thought on this over the years, but I keep coming back to just weigh yourself daily. It also allows you to actually make changes if you're not seeing the change that you want. For example, if you go 2 or 3 weeks and you see, okay, well, we're not trending anywhere and I'm trying to lose weight, you know you can make the adjustments required to do that. Whereas if you go, well, I'm going to weigh myself once a month, you might go 2 whole months and not get any progress. And then now you've lost way more time and you didn't have to lose that time. So just weigh yourself daily and you're going to be able to make changes faster. Now, to do this, I use an app called Happy Scale now. This is a new one that I've started using because I've been looking for a good one for a while, but I really like this one. And the reason I like it is because it shows you your 7-day average, your 30-day, I think it's your 90-day, and your year as well. So it shows you all of this. It shows you the trend line that you're on, which is the most important one, and it logs it all. It just gives you a lot more information about your daily weigh-ins, and it's something that I like. However, you don't need to use any apps. You can just use the Notes app on your phone. You can write it down, and then at the end of the week, just take the average of all of your weigh-ins, and there's your weekly average, and compare your weekly average across the weeks. This is really all you need to do. There's nothing fancy to it. So point number 6 is to skip the dirty bulk. Now, what I mean by this is don't just be lazy with your diet, and don't try and just say, well, do you know what, I'm bulking, so I'm just going to eat everything. It's not a pass to eat everything. Now, that's not me getting on at you. I've done exactly the same thing. But in reality, and if I'm honest with myself, I look back and I say, oh, I'm bulking, as an excuse just to be lazy and to just overeat when I really don't need to. Now, the thing is, the whole point of why we're going to the gym in the first place is to be healthier, is to look better, is to feel better. And when you're knowing that you're not necessarily doing the things that you could be doing, and that maybe you're weighing more than you should, and maybe you're not quite as lean as you'd like to be, this all takes away from those goals of why you're there in the first place. So completely skip the dirty bulk. Now, I would say you do need to bulk. You do need to be in a small surplus to actually gain muscle, but that's around 200 calories a day. Maybe up to 250 will be perfectly adequate. You don't need to be more than that. Now, the thing is, oftentimes when we're in a bulk, we're using it, as I say, as an excuse, and so we're actually in a 500 to 1,000 calorie surplus in a day. Like, we are way overeating for what we need. We just want to be in just enough to give ourselves the fuel to actually grow muscle from our workouts, and that's it. We don't want to be more than that, and it's just oftentimes becoming an excuse where we say, oh, it's fine, I'm bulking, I'm going to be lazy. Don't fall into that trap, because what ends up happening is like what happened with me. I went from being sub 10% body fat at 77 kilo, and I went all the way up. I gained 1 kilo a month. Now, that was deliberate. That was my target. I gained 1 kilo a month for a year, and by the end of it, I was north of 90. Now, I did make real gains. I was strong. I had done well, and I'd also hit my goal of 1 kilo a month, but I had kind of factored in being able to eat more than really I needed to. And what the end result was, is it meant when I was done, I now have a lot of fat to take off. Now, I didn't look fat as such, but I had a lot of fat to take off that I just simply wouldn't have to take off if I didn't do that. If I just took it slower and actually gained weight at a slower rate because I had a smaller surplus, I would have made similar levels of muscle gains. I would say borderline exactly the same level of muscle gains, maybe slightly less, but not enough that it would make any real difference. Except now, I don't need to be in a cutting phase for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks trying to take off the fat that I added for absolutely no reason other than I was overeating and being lazy, quite frankly. Ultimately, had I just done a lean bulk with a 100 to 250 calorie surplus per day, I would have had pretty much the same result, as I say. And I just wasted a whole load of time undoing it once I had gained all that weight. All right, so number 7. Now you may be thinking, I said 6 things. Well, here's the 7th. I like to over-deliver. What can I say? Don't let comfort take over when you get into a relationship. Now, this is a little bit different. This is a little bonus point. But I feel like it's quite important because I see it all the time. So the common thing is people will have great habits. They might be doing really well at the gym and they might be in shape and they might be really trying to work on themselves and better themselves. And they get into relationships and this hangs around for a little while. But oftentimes as the relationship starts to get more serious and you find yourself spending more time with this person, you might start to let some things start to slip. Now, this is a really, really bad idea and I've been there myself. As I said before, what actually is going to bring you happiness and it's going to bring you confidence and make you feel good in yourself is when you're actually at the gym, you're in shape, you're doing hard things on a daily basis that are allowing you to feel like you are doing the work, you're ticking the boxes, and you're challenging yourself. When you stop doing these things because you've got into a relationship, it's going to actually put strain on your relationship itself. It sounds like a good idea, or it sounds like not a big deal. When you go, well, I'm just not going to do that today because I want to do this instead with this person. That will put strain on that over time. You have to stay true to yourself and you have to stay true to doing things that are bettering you as an individual. Now, you could even do these things together. Like you could start going to the gym together or whatever it may be. But I would say just make sure you don't neglect what you're doing. Don't let the habits slip because I've done it myself and you don't feel good about it. And you actually end up not the person that person wanted to be in a relationship with in the first place. Because now you're some other version of you. You have to stay true to who you were in the beginning. Don't let your hobbies and your health quietly fade off into the background, which is so easily done. If you do that, you will experience a loss of self-respect. And you'll experience mental tension because you know you're not doing the things that you should. And when you have this, it can oftentimes, especially if you start to blame somebody else for your lack of time for doing these things, it isn't that person's fault. You need to make your own time to do these things. And anyone that respects that, they'll understand that. They know that you need to do things for yourself, as does anybody. If it's important to you, it should be important to them. All right, so let's just run through those points quickly one more time. So number 1, it's worth more than you think. Number 2, focus on the basics over the trends. Don't get caught up in the flashy new thing. Number 3, train like you mean it. Number 4, track everything you do. Number 5, weigh in daily. Number 6, skip the dirty bulk. And number 7, don't let comfort and excuses take over when you get into relationships. So remember, fitness is all about feeling good about yourself and finding the balance between your physical health, your mental health, and feeling great in your own mind. Ultimately, at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own reasons for being in the gym and for trying to better themselves, but don't lose sight of those things and remember that ultimately it comes down to feeling good about yourself in some way and trying to be better. So with that, I got to say thank you for watching. If you got value out of that video, please leave a like or subscribe. It would mean a lot. Or leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on it, and I'll be glad to speak to you there. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.